is over. For today's video, I'm going to show you every single one of the ambient lighting edit unlocked palette for the 2023 holiday season. For background information, I purchase these palettes every single year, and even if they have like seasonal launches, I'll pick these up. I collect these palettes, especially during the holiday season. In my opinion, that's when they come out with the best ones. And so I have collected a large number of these palettes. They're quite pricey, but to me they are worth it because when in doubt, I reach for an Hourglass palette because I feel like they do have literally the best powders on the market. So for me, I find them to be worth it, which is why I have so many of them. Even if the shades are repeats, I don't even care. I just love this formula so deeply. So this is easily one of my all-time favorite holiday launches that they come out with every year. I'm always curious as to what they are going to do this year. So I'm really thankful that Hourglass this year actually sent these to me in PR. I've purchased all of them in the past so that I get to show you each shade, swatch them, and compare. So that's what we're going to do today. Demos, swatches, and then I do want to compare the palettes to each other so that you can best decide which one is going to be for you. So you can purchase these right now on the Hourglass website along with a couple of their other holiday launches. There's a Glossy Balm Duo, and then this one is really fun. There's this new Veil Travel Powder Brush in this snake design, which goes along with one of the palettes. And I've said this before, but I really love the feel of Hourglass brushes. I think they are so soft and delicious feeling. So I'll probably use this today, but tell me that this is not so cool. So I love this. But let's get into the palettes because I know you guys are excited. These palettes are $90 each, which obviously is very pricey, but if you calculate the individual size powders from Hourglass, they are pricey by themselves. So what makes these palettes a good value is that you get this top of the line formula in multiple different pans, and this year's is a really good curation because each palette, no matter what one you get a finishing powder, you get bronzer, you get blush, and you get a metallic strobe powder highlight. So you get the full face, the full setup, the best of each Hourglass formula. So if you do not have any Hourglass powders, this is the time of year to pick these up. And this year is great because no matter which palette you get that full face option. But which one is best for you, right? So with these at $90, I had a couple questions. What were they last year? I looked. They were $85 last year, so there is a $5 bump, but everybody's been bumping up their prices lately. My grocery bill, anyways. And this year I love the cover. So last year they started doing the animal prints, and this year they are continuing that, and I love it. I love them. I think they're so cute. And Hourglass will donate 5% of their annual profits from this collection to the Non-Human Rights Project. So anyways, I'm done talking. Let's get into the palettes. So the mystery, the owl palette. I have not taken the plastic off. I apologize. The owl, what is up with this? So there are only 3 different palettes this year, which is what they have every year, but you can customize the covers, which I think a lot of you are going to love because some of you said, I want the leopard packaging. I hope I like what's inside. Well, you can get whatever color story you want, and then you can customize on their website what cover. So there are 4 different covers. So the owl is kind of the lone guy here where it doesn't have a set color story to go with it, but you can put any of the 3 in this one. So this one is an online exclusive if you want the owl. But I'm going to be talking about what the color stories are originally intended in their covers, but just know I love that customization aspect because so many of you were particular about which packaging was your favorite. It don't matter, girl, you can choose. Okay, so we're going to start off with the lightest one, which is the Jellyfish. So this is the color story you're going to go for if you are quite fair. And then here is what the inside is going to look like. So you have a finishing powder, a blush, a metallic strobe powder, a bronzer, another blush, and then another finishing powder. So this one has 2 different finishing powders, 2 blushes, 1 highlight, and 1 bronzer. There are 3 new shades in this palette and then 3 permanent shades. So 3 of these you can literally just pick up in the regular Hourglass line right now. I'm going to swatch these and I'll show you. So this one is Diffuse Light, which is a permanent shade. This blush is Rose Fusion, which is a new shade. And then this metallic strobe powder in Opal Strobe Light is also new. And something to note is Hourglass does not swatch nicely, so don't be turned off by the swatches. It's about how they look on the face, you know what I mean? Especially these finishing powders right here. This is not going to show up on me, but it's about the finish on the face when you apply it. And then here is the Rose Fusion blush, very pretty. This one is new. And then this one is the Opal Strobe Light powder, which is also really beautiful. This one's a highlight, and this one is also exclusive to this palette. We have Lunar Bronze. This is a new shade. Diffused Heat Blush. This is permanent, and this finishing powder in Ethereal Light, also permanent. And I like using this as a highlight sometimes on me. Here's that Lunar Bronze. Diffused Heat, permanent shade. And then this one is also permanent. But these are very, very useful. I will show you right now. So I'm going to demo the Jellyfish on this side of my face. My main focus is going to be the new shades, but I do want to show you, I don't know if it's going to be able to pick up on camera. The finishing powders are more so something that you're going to see in everyday life, but we're going to use this one right here, Diffused Light, and this one is really great for just kind of setting all over, especially after you apply your powders. It's great to blend them and give a really soft focus effect. So I'm just going to start it off like that, but we'll come to this one again. And I do really like using Ethereal Light right here. And this one is really nice as a super subtle highlight or a nice kind of brightening shade, because the glow on this one is quite minimal, but again, it just gives everything a soft focus effect, mostly perceptible in person, not on camera. Okay, so let's go on with a Rephr number 5 brush. We're gonna try the new bronzer, Lunar Bronze, on my skin tone. Really pretty, it has a nice warmth to it. And I love the way Hourglass powders apply. It really is effortless and you never get too much pigment. It's always the perfect amount. And it always starts off looking quite natural, and it's never flat. All of their powders have a nice skin-like finish to them. That looks pretty nice, and it also is buildable. I'm only doing half of my face because I want to do a direct comparison between the next palette that I'm going to use so you can see a difference. But that is that Lunar Bronze shade. Now for blush, there is only one new blush shade in here. That's Rose Fusion. So I'm going to use this one first so that you can see it on its own. This is the important one to test. So this one has a little bit more depth to it, a more mauve-y tone to it. Really pretty. Well, do I need to turn the light down so you can see a little better? So that one's nice. A very subtle blend. If you look at the swatches on my arm, this is the blush I just used that's new. And then this one right here is Diffused Heat, which is in the permanent line, which you can see is more pinky. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Diffused Heat to add pop on the center of the cheek. And these do have a really pretty subtle glow to them. And then I'm going into this new strobe light powder, which I'm really excited. This is Opal. It looked gorgeous by the swatch. It has a little bit of a pinky tone to it. Gorgeous. I think this one's going to be pretty nice on fair skin tones. Oh, that's gorgeous. And it definitely gives a big, pretty strobe effect. And now I can show you what I like to use this powder for. Diffuse Light. I use it as it's literally called a diffuse to kind of blend and mesh everything together. It truly is a beautiful finishing powder. So here is the Jellyfish palette. This is definitely great if you're on the more fair side and if you don't have a lot of the Hourglass powders, because 3 are existing and 3 are new. But I do like the 3 new shades, and I'm happy that the new shades are a bronzer, a blush, and a highlight, because those are the ones you're really going to see on the face. I don't mind the repeat finishing powders because you can't have so many of those. They're not super visible on the face. It's more so about the finish of those, so I don't mind that. I'm happy that it's all the colored powders that are new. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to mention, bad reviewer. Here's the box that they're going to come in. This one is the Jellyfish one. And the palettes themselves have a 12-month shelf life, and the palettes are made in Italy, so failure. Why did I forget to mention that? Okay. I'm going to wipe off my brushes in between, of course. And now we are going to take a look at the Leopard. Oh, I think this packaging is so cute. So the layout of this one, you have Dim Light Finishing Powder, which is permanent. Celestial Strobe Light Strobe Powder. Now this one is not in the permanent line, but it did launch in the Butterfly palette from last year, as well as in the Blush and Glow, which was a spring launch. So not permanent, but it came out twice in the last year. Then we have Mood Exposure, which I probably have the most of from Hourglass, but I don't mind because this is my all-time favorite blush. Well, one of them. It's one of my most used blushes. I love Mood Exposure, but this is permanent. Then we have Iridescent Rose, which is also existing. This was in the Tiger palette from last year if you purchased that one. Not in the permanent line, but Tiger last year. This one is a blush in Ethereal Flush. This one is a new one. And then this is the bronzer in Lustrous Bronze Light, which this one does exist, but I couldn't find it in the permanent line, and I'm not sure which palette it came from. So I don't have this shade, so this one is new to me, but this is the only brand new shade to this launch. But in terms of permanence, only 2 of these are permanent, and then I believe 3 of them are repeat, but are not in the permanent line, so you might not have it if you don't have those palettes. But definitely gonna have to use this one and then this one because I've never used it, and this looks quite warm. So let's swatch these. So we have Dim Light Finishing Powder, Celestial Strobe Light, and then Mood Exposure. I think Dim Light is one of their most popular finishing powders. I think it's the most versatile for most skin tones. And then this Metallic Strobe Powder in Celestial Strobe Light, which launched twice in this year's seasonal palettes, well, in the last year's seasonal palettes. And then Mood Exposure, which is in the permanent line and also in multiple palettes that I own. I love it because of the mauve undertone. Okay, and then let's get the last 2 blushes. So this is Iridescent Rose, Ethereal Flush, and then Lustrous Bronze Light. Bronze, really pretty. So this Iridescent Rose shade launched in the Tiger palette from the holiday collection last year. Ethereal Flush, the new shade, and then Lustrous Bronze Light. If you know when or where this launched, can you let me know? This almost has a weird, like, tacky color to it. Okay, Leopard, let's do this. Now, Dim Light is pretty close to my skin tone, so this one is great for like setting or finishing a foundation on me. That's not usually how I use it, but I could, just to add a soft glow to the skin. Okay, I'm really curious about this bronzer and if it looks any different from the Jellyfish bronzer. I can definitely see how this one would be more suited towards light medium skin tones, how it's the medium palette. Oh, that is pretty. It definitely has like a subtly more orange color than the bronzer from the Jellyfish palette, but it's actually quite unique and very, very pretty. I actually think this is quite flattering on my skin tone. I was not expecting it to be, and I even saw almost little glitter particles in the swatch, but the glitter is not picking up on my skin at all. It looks really beautiful. And then let's use the Ethereal Flush Blush, the only truly new shade in this palette. I do like that Hourglass does disclose on their website what shades are new and what shades are not. Now, I actually, before the promo images even came out, I literally wrote everything down and spent like an hour doing that just to not have to need it. But anyways, I do like that they will tell you what's new and what's not. And this is beautiful. Oh my goodness. It almost has like a pinky peachy tone to it. No shift color like gold or anything, just a pretty flush. I like that. This is a good everyday blush. I'm not going to demo Mood Exposure because I've used it so much, but it has more of a mauve tone. Iridescent Rose. Do I even have room? I'm just going to put it on the apple of my cheek because it actually has a little bit more of a highlighty glow than Ethereal Flush, because this one is Iridescent Rose, and then this one is Ethereal Flush, the new shade. So the new shade is brighter. This one is more sheer Iridescent Rose, but it has more of a shimmer to it. And then we're going to finish off with Celestial Strobe Light, which definitely pulls a lot lighter on the skin than it looks in pan. It looks like it might be a little deep and leave a darkness when I turn my face straight on, but it doesn't have that. It's actually quite glowy. It is less white-ish or brightish than the Opal Strobe Light, but really, really pretty. These are all subtle differences though. I do want you to know that. And then a little bit more dim light in here, just to blend and mesh everything together. This is one of my favorite makeup tricks that not a lot of people know about. I did this with my bridal clients because in photography, it just gives that blurred effect. So that one is the Leopard. What do you think? Jellyfish versus Leopard. I have a light medium skin tone and both worked out great for me, but definitely I would say I have more of a pop with the Leopard. I think on my skin tone, the Leopard is just doing better with my undertones. So I like the Leopard a little bit more than the Jellyfish on me. However, the Leopard has the least amount of new shades. So that would convince me, you know, if I didn't do what I did for a job, I'd probably skip out on the Leopard because there's no new and exciting shades. But you know, if you're not a collector also like me, then it probably doesn't matter. So the very last one that we're going to look at is the Snake palette. Now this one actually has 5 brand new shades and only 1 existing shade. So honestly, you guys, if there's one that's going to sell out, it's going to be this one. And this one also is most suitable for medium to deep skin tones. I say that tentatively because I'm honestly really not sure. So if you have a deep complexion, can you please let me know what you think? Honestly, online, I feel like it looks maybe a little deeper than it does in person, but also I do find that the Hourglass powders, especially like the bronzers and the blushes, they can pull a little bit deeper and more opaque on the skin, which is why I would love to hear feedback if you have a deeper complexion, how this ends up working on you. But let's go ahead and swatch this one. So this is a finishing powder, and I feel like it has a little bit more glow to it than most of the Hourglass finishing powders. In Radiant Light, this one is the only one that's permanent. The rest are new. So we have a blush in Coral Haze, and then an Infinity Strobe Powder, and then a strobe powder and this last one is a strobe powder in Infinite Strobe Light. So this highlight is probably going to be a little too deep on me, but let's see. So Radiant Light, that's deeper than my skin tone. Then we have Coral Haze, going to have to use a light hand. And then this is the Infinite Strobe Powder, definitely going to be too deep on me. This Sunbeam blush looks gorgeous. Mystic Flush blush. And then this is the bronzer in Solar Bronze, which I think could be a little bit deeper, but let's see how it pulls. I cannot wait to get this Sunbeam shade on my face. It has such a strong glow to it. Then we have Mystic Flush, and then Solar Bronze. Honestly, especially at least with the highlights and the blushes, I think these are going to work on deep skin tones. Unsure about the bronzer, but these look pretty nice and deep on me. Okay, so let's apply this to the face, even though this one is not geared towards my skin tone. So I'm going to use a light hand with the new Solar Bronze bronzer. I did just redo my entire, a little dirty on me. I redid my entire face makeup. So we're nice and fresh right now. I'm going to use a lighter hand. I dug in again, but I'm going to keep it super light. And then I apply it under my cheekbone first, and then we're going to blend it out. Because at least if I'm a little bit more careful with my placement here, and it's a little deeper, it doesn't matter. I just shaped my face a little bit more, but right here, I was too heavy-handed and it looks a bit dirty. So this bronzer definitely is going to work on a medium skin tone and up. I just don't know how far up. Getting everywhere. But it still is okay on me, but not amazing. So I really need to see what this Sunbeam blush looks like. It does have a stronger shift than a lot of the other blushes in terms of a glow. Not super flattering on me, but medium skin tone, yes. And if you have textured cheeks, this might not be the most flattering because the finish of it is a little bit more metallic. And it's a strong golden shift. Honestly, it doesn't look great on me. Between the bronzer and the blush, maybe not as great on me. Let's try Coral Haze. This one definitely had the most vibrancy to it. So I'm using a really light hand and it's very pretty, but I could easily have gotten a lot more pigment had I desired to, but I'm trying to make this work. Okay, and then let's see how Coral Haze is. Ooh, this one's pretty. I don't know if you can see a difference, but Mystic Flush has a little bit more warmth, like oranginess to it, and then Coral Haze is almost like a little bit more purpley, but it still has that coral tone to it. Very pretty. So they do look different on the cheeks in their own subtle way. I was hoping this palette would work for me, but it doesn't. Do I dare try this as a highlight? It's okay if it does not work for me. This is clearly not meant for me. Do I have a cast? A little bit. It's not terrible, but it's just not the most flattering. You know? Okay, I'm going to use my big fluffy brush with some of Radiant Light, and we are going to try and fix this. I need Radiant Light to do its magic as a finishing powder. Luckily, these are more sheer, so this isn't going to do a favor by brightening my face at all, but it is meshing everything beautifully together. Like you see, it looks better, right? It looks more smooth in the skin now. I'm telling you, these finishing powders are magic, and I really like this brush for an all-over buffing situation as well. Oh my gosh, that just transformed how these looked on my face. Totally did. However, Snake does not complement my skin tone the most, but it also is kind of the most exciting for me because it has the most new shades. So as an Hourglass collector, I'm really happy about this. But if you're not an Hourglass collector with ample shades and you are on the lighter side of skin tone, this is one that I would not recommend for you. Definitely for my medium and up friends. But I'll let you get the last look. Ugh, that finishing powder, thank goodness, saved the day. And this Sunbeam blush, it's really, really shimmery, you guys. It's not very flattering on my textured cheeks. So what I would recommend would be to put almost a base color underneath that's more matte, and then do a light sprinkle of that Mystic Flush if you have texture. If you have beautiful skin, ignore what I'm saying. It's going to look so nice on your skin, but that would be my tip for you. So one thing that's really important, I think, when you're deciding on these palettes is which one is the best for you. So I laid out already, Jellyfish is probably the best for the lightest. For light medium to medium, the Leopard is better, and then obviously medium to deep, the Snake is better. But I did want to show you them side by side so you can kind of see. So here is the Jellyfish, the lighter one, and then here is the Leopard next to each other. Don't worry, we're going to do swatches as well, but in case you wanted to see that. And then I'm going to take the Jellyfish out, the lightest one, and then this is what it looks like next to the Snake palette. You can definitely tell this one has those brighter blushes, deeper bronzers, deeper powders. Okay, let's swatch them. Okay, so let's start off with the finishing powders, which these are the ones that are the hardest to swatch that you can't really see and honestly aren't the biggest difference on the skin. But remember, the Jellyfish had 2 finishing powders, a lighter one and then one a little bit deeper. So these are the Jellyfish finishing powders. This is the dim light in the Leopard, which is that mid-tone one, and then the Snake one. We have the deepest one. So these, you know, they are all different from one another, but it's not as perceptible on the skin. Next up, we have bronzers. So this is the bronzer from Jellyfish, Leopard, and then Snake. You can see Snake's obviously the deepest, and I'm going to comment on how like almost yellowy the one in the Leopard looks, but I found it to be very flattering on my skin tone, which I thought was surprising. The one in the Jellyfish is a little bit more neutral comparing it to the Leopard, but those are what these 3 look like compared to each other. And blushes. So the Jellyfish I feel like has more pinky shades, obviously a little lighter. These are the 3 blushes in the Leopard, and then the 3 obviously in the Snake. And you can see the Snake ones are more warm and they definitely have more vibrancy, especially on the cheek. But you can definitely build up the blushes over here in the Leopard. So if you do have a deeper skin tone, I do think these blushes will work for you. But these are the blushes. I hope that this helps. And by the way, if you're like curious as to which blush is which, I swatched from each palette the top to the bottom. So this is the blush on the top row, the blush on the bottom, blush on the top of the Leopard, 2 blushes on the bottom, blush on the top, 2 blushes on the bottom. And then the Celestial Strobe palettes are very clearly light, medium, deep for here. So Jelly, Leopard, Snake. And these 2 do work for me. This one does not work for me. And this one is my favorite. So there you go. So I hope that answered any questions that you guys might have had about these palettes, and that this helped you reach a decision as to if any or all of these palettes are for you, if you're going to pick any up this year. Okay, so my suggestions for myself, my favorite palette, the most flattering on me, is definitely the Leopard, and I find the bronzer to be very unique. The biggest con of this palette for me as a collector is this one has the least amount of new shades. However, I thoroughly enjoy all of these shades collectively as a palette, so I really don't mind that much. I think this creates a pretty look. I was initially the most excited about the Snake because, hello, 5 of these are brand new shades, but honestly, altogether as a palette, this is not the most flattering on my skin tone, but this is very exciting for those of you with deeper skin tones than myself. I think I'll end up using this individually, like the blushes. The highlight's not for me, the bronzer's not for me, the finishing powder is not for me, so I don't think I'll get the most use out of this one. So this one wouldn't be for me, but it still is very exciting that there's 5 out of 6 new shades, which is why I still think that that one's going to be a bestseller and you can still make it work. And then the Jellyfish one I also think is very nice and it looks pretty on me as well. I'm picking the Leopard over the Jellyfish if it were up to me, but this one is definitely for my fair-skinned girls. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thank you so much to Hourglass for sending these my way. And overall, I think, you know, not every shade in here is new, but this is a great time to refresh if you need a refresh in your collection, or if you use these as often as I do, even more often since I do test a lot of makeup. I don't get to use these as often as I do. Like if I didn't do what I did, I would still be purchasing these because I know I would have used these all the time. So it's an exciting launch nonetheless. This is a great introduction to Hourglass, especially this year because all of these palettes have everything you need: finishing powder, bronzer, blush, and highlight. So that's also very exciting. These make great gifts. I do have a code Morgan10 that you can use at checkout. That will save you 10% off. If these come to Ulta, I will also keep you guys updated in my community tab. I do hope these come to Ulta because you guys know they do have an amazing point system. But yeah, I'm very happy with this launch. I love, love, love the packaging, and every year I love these. And one thing I will never fault Hourglass on is their quality. Creme de la creme, in my opinion, which is why I'm always so excited about this launch. So if you have any questions, like I said, make sure you ask below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys, have a good one.